Yeah, good morning, PASW staff, clients, friends joining us for a lovely Tuesday. It's going to be a great one today. Yesterday we looked at Gladiator, your film scoring assignment, so get the results into me by today, and we're going to have fun on Friday. Today's going to be a very great, emotionally, hopefully we're going to attain great emotion in this class. I'm very excited to share with you a composer that we've talked about before, but I've really wanted to dive in the best possible way to understand some of what this composer has done without being too overbearing, because he's kind of like Wagner. It's how do you talk about somebody like this in 10-15 minutes? It's too overwhelming. So what we're going to do together is just go down through this guy's life and then talk about a piece, and there's going to be an assignment at the end of this. Yes, look at me giving an assignment on a Tuesday. Usually I just give assignments on Mondays, but you know what, guys? We need to really step up the game and be aware of this giant genius. So today we're going to be looking at Gustav Mahler. Mahler, Austrian Jewish composer, conductor, mostly known in his life as a conductor until kind of Bernstein and other composers in the 20th century took note of his symphony writing. He's mostly known, you know how people have their thing? Wagner had his thing with opera. Mozart did everything. Beethoven did the symphony thing. He only wrote one opera. Each composer usually has one thing that almost every artist has kind of one thing that really gets them going. Mahler, it's songs, Lieder, but it's also symphonies too. Songs, remember I said Lieder. I said Lieder because we looked at Schubert. Remember, Lieder is a pop song. It's an art song. He did a lot of those, but we're not going to look at that. We're going to look at the idea of what a symphony is, and then we're going to look at one of Mahler's symphonies. But we need to know who I'm talking about and where this guy came from very humble beginnings. And yeah, I mean, Beyonce is related to Mahler. Did you know that? The 8th cousin 4 times removed, if you want to call that being related. One of the composers of the Romantic period. So the period, romantic, we know the 19th century is a Romantic period. What does it mean by being romantic? Romantic means when you look inward toward nature, toward your feelings. That's Romanticism. You get inspiration, and these guys that wrote Romantic music usually are inspired by poetry, literature, art, and other things like that, where they're coming up with richer harmonies. So that's what these Romantic composers are doing, and he's part of that late 19th century, right into modernism, which is the 20th century. He's right there. Noted for his 10 symphonies. So he wrote 10 symphonies. The last one was unfinished. His symphonies were banned, and his music was banned for at least 50 years in Europe. Because why? Because he was Jewish, and because Hitler ruled the world pretty much in that, or at least Europe he did. So banned for a long, long time until other composers did do it, and then Bernstein really just kind of rediscovered him. Born in Bohemia. So that was part of the Austrian Empire. Like I said, he was Jewish, and so it's located kind of, that part is now the Czech Republic. But so let's go from Hollywood to the Czech Republic, and this is where he's born. And let's also bring up our timeline if we're talking about Romanticism. We did a class on Sibelius, John Sibelius, Finnish composer, probably the most famous composer in Finland, and became kind of their ultimate favorite composer. Sibelius is another composer who's known primarily for symphony writing. Okay, symphony. I'm saying that. What is a symphony? I know that there's symphony orchestra. It could mean kind of a group like that. But mostly the symphony's been going on for a long time, but mostly it's attributed to Sammartini. Giovanni Battista Sammartini. What do you think about that accent? Around 1730s in Milan is when the symphony, including Sammartini, the structure is becoming. The symphony is an extended musical composition, so it's not just one song. One song is a tone poem. We looked at what that is. A 10-minute song by a composer, usually a tone poem, based on a poem many times, visualness of a poem. A symphony's not like that. Symphony's going to be divided into movements, usually fast, slow, maybe a dance-like, and then a finale, which is fast. It started with 3 movements: fast, slow, fast. Nowadays, you can do anything you want with a symphony, of course. But traditionally, it's 4 movements. And like I said, Beethoven was one of the early. He elevated the symphony. Mozart wrote symphonies, but Beethoven really elevated it particularly with the 9th Symphony, because he said, "Hey, we don't only need musicians to play. We can also use a choir." And yes, the 9th Symphony, the Ode to Joy, was the first to use a choir in a symphony, which was very scandalous. So symphonies are movements, beginning, middle, and end, fast, slow, medium tempo, and we're gonna see that a symphony could be a little teaser, could be a metaphor for your life, for our life, for a life. A symphony is maybe a life, but let's stay on the course. Don't try to get me sidetracked here. So his father really supported his ambitions for music. I think he was an abusive father, not to Mahler, but he did encourage his music and encourage him to study music. And Mahler, at about age 4, discovered his grandparents' piano, and just took to it immediately. It's kind of weird how, I don't know if it's programmed through God or whatever, or channeled through whatever you want to call it, but some people just see a piano at age 4 and know how to play it already. I was not like that at all. By the time he's 10, he's already performing and giving live performances in the town. And over the next 17, 20 years or so, he worked his way from small European opera houses up to really becoming, this huge artistic director of the Vienna Court Opera in 1897. And while he's conducting, he's going away each summer in this little cabin to write his music, to write his symphonies mostly. Mary's alma mater. That's kind of funny, right? Alma mater, but her name is Alma Mahler, and marries her in 1902. She was a composer as well, but they had a very tumultuous relationship. He was 19 years older than her. She was, I don't really know their personal relationship, but I know that there was a lot of trouble and perhaps competition. I know Mahler was a very difficult person to live with, to work with. We'll talk about his personality in a little bit, but I know that he really, because she began an affair and she was cheating on him, and she was very beautiful and intelligent and very precocious, and she lived a really long time after he died, actually. But because of marital problems, he went to go see the local therapist, in Vienna, who happened to be Freud. I've seen many therapists. I've never, that's a pretty good therapist to have. Freud said it all went back to Mahler's fixation with his mother. So who knows if Freud was right. Then he comes to America. Where do you think he comes to? New York, and in 1908, he's the director of the Metropolitan Opera. Kind of cool, like he's in our country now. Carnegie Hall actually was his last engagement. So 1911, he conducts his final concert in Carnegie Hall. And then he's very sick and confined to bed, and he travels back to Vienna, where he dies in 1911, the age of 50, so really young. Infection of the lining of the heart and his heart valves. He had problems, heart problems, attributed to his mom, and so dies in Vienna in 1911. He had a lot of tragedy in his life. The death of several siblings, the suicide of another sibling, domestic abuse as a child that he witnessed, and Alma was married. She was pretty cruel and I think manipulative. He was known for being very nervous and tension and obsession with death. He didn't want to write a Ninth Symphony because he knew that most other composers, Beethoven and other people, Schubert, they died after their ninth or during their ninth or something. So he was very, very superstitious. But he lived through the ninth. He didn't live through the 10th, but at least, it wasn't on the ninth one. Avid swimmer, walker. He would rise up early in the mornings and compose. And then he would swim, run, cycle, love the outdoors. And as we hear his music, it's very evocative. The romanticism is very evocative of nature. A lot of these composers, especially Sibelius and Mahler, were very influenced by nature and their surroundings, which is one of the beautiful things about being in Europe, because it's so gorgeous. It's not like, you're born in Fresno and you're really talking about the nature out there. He converts to Christianity in 1897, probably because he has to, and that's just, back then, if you wanted jobs and positions in churches and stuff, you have to, but not to say he didn't have faith. I think he really did. A lot of his themes are religious and all that stuff. One of the pieces we're going to look at is his Adagietto. This is the fourth movement in his Symphony Number 5, and this was in 1902. Most famously used in a great Visconti film, Death in Venice, and Visconti uses that music so effectively, but you've probably heard some of this, but this is just, pulsating with emotion. See if you've listened to this. This was written when Alma was pregnant with their first child, and this became a declaration of love for his wife, for his new life. There's a lot of powerful emotions going on. I know that this is unorthodox to bring in the timeline, but if you just think about this, this is when, he's born right around when Debussy's born. They're writing at the same time. Debussy's, it's romantic music, but it's impressionism music. Just listen to how different Debussy is as compared to what we just listened to. Very different music, right? They're both composers. And then if you can look at, Scott Joplin's also writing music too. All these guys are writing at the same time. Scott Joplin sounds nothing like Mahler. So this is all going on in the late 19th century. All these great different things. So I just wanted to point out composers, sometimes people think, well, they all sound alike. But there's three huge composers right there, Joplin, Debussy, and Mahler, and they're sounding completely different. Okay, now we come to the big one. Probably his most famous is Symphony Number 8. They called it Symphony of 1,000. He didn't like that name, but mostly because, it could require 1,000 musicians. It doesn't, but probably you need at least 305 musicians to perform this. Not only is it his biggest. It's about 85 minutes. Not only it's not just great because it's big, but we're going to listen to it, and you're going to tell me what you think of it. So there's two parts to it, and there's sacred text at the beginning, and then there's also something taken from Goethe's, from Faust, from the poem. One of the largest works in the classical repertoire. It requires huge, not only instruments, but voices. So he's got 2 choirs going on. He's got a children's choir, as we'll see in the video coming up. I mean, there's 20 brass players, 2 piccolos, 5 flutes, a mandolin, harmonium, glockenspiel, and then 8 soloists too in front. I mean, it's massive. The sound wall is just unbelievable. And what we're going to be doing, and I hope it's okay with you, because I just can't cut this any other way. I do want to listen to the last few minutes of the last movement. And this is Leonard Bernstein conducting the Vienna Symphony. This is how the last movement ends. Here's what I want you to do. I'm not playing this to take up time in the class or to kill time or to just put on the video and just say, you know, I want you to really listen to this. I want you, if you want to, I want you to close your eyes, or you can look at the musicians and see what they're playing. You can look at Bernstein. You see how emotionally invested Bernstein is. I want this to be proof that we're alive right now. We're experiencing this. I'm alive right now. You're alive listening to this right now. And we're going to be so aware of, I want you to, this is the assignment. Listen to this, watch this, listen to it. You can do whatever you want, but I want you to listen to it and feel something. You're going to feel something, whether it's an emotion of happiness or joy or something. But your assignment is to watch this performance and see what you feel, see what it evokes in you. If you're bored, that's fine, but give me these few minutes. Give Mahler these few minutes of pulling at your heartstrings. Tell me that this doesn't affect you or move you. And if you're not in an environment to listen to it straight through, then pause this right now. I want you to listen to this and be aware of your existence and your life and your heart and your love and all of these things. Take it in. It's complicated, but it's also just, it's riveting. Okay. So let's jump in and listen. mean, I don't even know what to say after that. Can you believe the sound that he got? Can you believe Bernstein's passion in all those singers? If you see the instruments up in, Mahler orchestrated it where there's offstage musicians, where there's musicians playing. He wanted to double a lot of the woodwind sections and the brass sections to get this ultra sound of the orchestra and the choir here, to get players from, so that's why you're seeing players in the wings on the side of the building. But okay, there's an organ. Not only is the massive amount of sound, but listen, if you just listen to, doesn't it sound like, it sounds like the universe is either expanding or evolving, or it's so full of emotion. I hope you heard something, you listened to that. There's no right or wrong answer about what feeling you had during this, but I wanted I want you to be acknowledged of how much feeling this evokes. You don't have to like it, but I want you to feel something. That's what the beauty of art is. It's just, I don't know what to say about that, because that last movement is life. That last movement is life. And I'm saying that because Mahler was quoted by saying, a symphony must be like the world. It must embrace everything. And when we hear these 5 minutes or something, it does embrace everything. It's suffering, it's sorrow, it's death, it's also love and redemption and beauty and all of these other things. It's taking you through, just these few minutes is taking you through the whole human condition, almost, in a sense. And you could listen to this each time and get something different. And so your assignment is, let's try to make our symphony, let's try to make our life a symphony. Our lives are symphonies. We have different movements. We have slow, fast, dance-like, and then we know it's going to end at some point. I don't know what movement that'll be at. Hopefully it's with a nice big bang, right? We all want to go out in some sort of, great last movement. So if Mahler says the symphony must be like the world, it's going to embrace everything. Live your life like a symphony, or the symphony is one's life when you think of it, filled with wonder, emotion, power, all these different things. So that's hopefully you felt something when I played that for you. That was your assignment, just to feel something, and to know that our lives are a symphony in some pieces. So hope you enjoyed Mahler. That's just a taste of, there's so much music that is wonderful that came from this man, and lived a hard life, and but left this music on that's just transcends everything. So there's not much more I could say about that. This one was a hard one, huh? We're gonna have fun tomorrow. We had fun yesterday, and this is fun. Learning can be fun. So I love you and I miss you, and I'm really proud of you to stay with me and stick with me on this. I love you, and I miss you, and I'm glad that you're here with me to share this work of art, to share Mahler's 8th Symphony, to do that. I thank you. Thank you for joining in with me and feeling. Okay. I've said it all, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye.